Hi everyone. So this is the fourth and the final review of Arun Sharma's data interpretation book. We have reviewed all the other books by Arun Sharma, links for which will be in the description in case you want to check them out. And in this video we are going to talk about what this book contains and how can you use it for CAT 2022 preparation. This is going to be a fairly short video because when I checked this book out I felt like it's fairly simply defined. So let's start off with the index and we're going to see how this book has been bifurcated. So even though the book has three sections: traditional data interpretation, logical data interpretation, and archives, I honestly did not understand this bifurcation. So I'm just simply going to start from part 1, which is basic modes of data representation. Herein, first chapter will talk about what data interpretation is all about and what are the different types. And from chapter 2 onward, all those types which occur in the CAT exam have been mentioned. So you can see tables, bar graphs, line graphs, and then pie charts and caselets and others. So these are a couple of frequently occurring types that also occur in CAT and other exams. So in case you're preparing for any exam that has data interpretation in there, this is definitely going to be of help to you. Part 2 is on developing your calculations. Herein there are some formulas, tricks mentioned using which you can increase your calculation, but to be honest I did not find this part to be very relevant. You can go through it, but instead I would recommend you watching the DILR preparation video that I had just published on the channel. You'll be able to find some methods to increase your calculation speed in there. Third part is how to think in traditional data interpretation. I honestly did not like this part very much, so you can simply skip over this. I don't think it's very relevant. And from part 4 onward, you'll see that there are a couple of tests given here. So part 4 has 15-minute test papers. Part 5 has some mock test papers, which is something I really liked about this book. So I'm going to show you ahead how extensively this book has these mock papers and examples that you can practice. The second section talks about how to think in logical data interpretation. Again, a part that I felt was probably not something that is relevant for the CAT exam, but then you have 12-minute test papers that have a lot of questions in there, and then similarly mock tests and some CAT previous year papers. So this is the index, and now I'm going to show you how exactly the book looks. So if you check out the first part, which is the traditional data interpretation, here the author has simply shown you what data interpretation means and what are the different types. You can just simply read this part and quickly go through the different types that exist in data interpretation. And from chapter 2 onward, something that I noticed is that the introduction in data interpretation is not very extensive, unlike in logical reasoning or in quants books. So in those books, generally intro used to be very lengthy and that helped building concepts. In this case, you might have to either watch some YouTube videos or refer to some concepts on Google in order to understand what these types actually entail by practicing them more and more. So moving ahead, you can see that these are all the types that occur in the CAT exam. I definitely felt like along with the answer key, there are detailed solutions to every single question, which I believe is a very big plus. And in case you want to build your basics from the scratch, this book can certainly help you in that case. Following this, you'll see the part where I shared about the calculation building. I would have easily brushed over this part and not given a lot of due importance to this. Also to the third part where they talk about some traditional data interpretation part. But the fourth and the fifth part of the chapter are quite important. In fact, if you look at this book, you would realize that half of the book is filled with a lot of questions that you can practice in data interpretation. Earlier, I felt that this book has very basic types of questions like the edition that I used during my time. This is edition 7, so that must have been edition 4 or 5, not sure. But then I felt like that book had very basic level questions, but I found some really interesting questions in this book which I feel are at par with what the CAT level also has. So in case you want to test this out, I would highly recommend this as a base resource. But in a nutshell, what I would say after having gone through the different papers in this particular book is that you can probably solve 3 to 4 sets every single day, and since some of the sets seem to be easier, you can also increase the number of attempts. But honestly, I felt like this is just going to be a base resource. If you really want to develop your data interpretation skills, and that also goes for logical reasoning, you will really have to practice the past year papers or mock tests or sectional tests, links to which have been given in the previous video on DILR preparation. So that is the verdict that I have for this particular book. In case you have any questions related to this book, you can ask me in the comments. I'll put the link to this book in the description, and in case there is any other book that you would want me to review, please let me know in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching this video.